Good evening, guys, and welcome to another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans, aka Startin' Parker here. Not in my usual gaff today. We are in a Super 8 motel room here in Platte City, Kansas, or Platte City, Missouri. Well, I don't know which side of the border I'm on, but yeah, needless to say, we're here for the Kansas race weekend. I'm going to be going over the recent ARCA races that happened over the past weekend. Sorry we didn't get to it on Wednesday. I was packing for the trip, and due to having to work early this morning at my job, I had to unfortunately, go to bed early, and podcast just wasn't going to happen. So glad you guys are joining me on this Thursday evening. I hope you guys have enjoyed your day, and I hope you guys are ready for Kansas Speedway action. We got a fun show for you guys today. We're going to go over the Portland race for the West Circuit. Sunrise Ford wins again. Pretty self-explanatory there. The wild show at DuQuoin, and really a little debate of whether ARCA really does belong on dirt. I say yes. And I'm actually really eager to hear your guys' opinions on whether you guys think ARCA really does belong on dirt, because, based off the two races we saw this season, I feel like rain really affected those opinions, and maybe more will swing towards the latter. But either way, my short little intro, and then we'll get right into the show. As of course, you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media at Startin' Parker on Twitter. We're doing a giveaway once we reach 4,000 followers and 500 subs here on YouTube. We just hit 451, so can't thank you guys enough for that kind of support. It means a lot to me because, this channel, I just wanted to create this channel for fun, and you guys, your support means a lot. Go follow ARCARacing.com, ARCA Racing Twitter, Brock Beard, NASCAR Man, the Racing Experts.com for all NASCAR content. Friends, they help make this possible. Anyway, let's get right into the show. So we really had two ARCA races this past weekend, one all the way in Portland and one all the way in DuQuoin in the Midwest. So we start off with DuQuoin here, and no, not DuQuoin, Portland. God, already botching. Start off with Portland here, and unfortunately, only 13 cars. I've really been critical on the West Series this season for their field sizes, and it's not really their fault. I don't blame the West Series at all for their field sizes. I think it's just a case of the real world issues. Sponsorship is down across a lot of the racing markets. You see a lot more one race deals. You don't see a lot of full season deals nowadays. And I think, just kind of all of that mixed together, and with the rising costs, obviously, of the sport, it's just a bad combination of things that have really hurt the West Series, which even then it's hurt it. At the same time, it still produces good racing. So we had just 13 cars entered earlier this year. Of course, that was in the rain. This one will be taking place, thankfully took place in the dry, so it was a completely different track. In practice, it was actually kind of shocking to see that Landon Lewis was actually the quickest car in practice by quite a hefty margin, well over a second over Jake Drew, and Jake Drew was only third quickest. So maybe was Jake Drew going to be beat? Practice results showed he would. 11 of the 13 entries took a practice lap. Davey Margus, making his debut, was the slowest. The two not to make a practice time was the 85 of Vince Little and the 39 of Andrew Tuttle. Coming into qualifying, all 13 cars did take a time. The 39 of Andrew Tuttle, though, he did not make a lap of practice, and his only lap on the track was his one qualifying lap. Unfortunately, blew the motor. So although of our 13 starters, it unfortunately got worse as our 13 starter unfortunately had to withdraw the event due to not having a spare motor. Last Chance Racing, of course, being one of the most underfunded teams in the West Circuit, unfortunately. So that left us down to 12 cars. Vince Little, Davey Marcus, Bridget Burgess rung up the last three. Jake Drew, though, he blew away his practice times, winning the pole. Todd Souza was second. Cole Moore was third. Landon Lewis was fifth. And Sean Hingarani. Again, not a lot of notables in the field, kind of your standard field. And I was optimistic for sure coming into this race. It's only 13 cars. Now down to 12. What kind of race are we going to get? It's not a very big road. With how even the West Series kind of is, you see a car leading, but you don't see the field spread out by about 30 seconds. We didn't see that throughout this whole race. We saw some cars that obviously could not keep up with the field, but I would say majority the top 6 cars could keep up with the field. So the race started, and shockingly, Jake Drew did not initially take the lead. Todd Souza actually got the initial jump and would lead the first 2 laps, which was actually quite impressive, considering that Todd, is a guy who, he still does it really all by himself. I don't think he has any I don't know if he has any Toyota affiliations or if he just buys, Toyota Motors, but he impressively took the lead over Jake Drew and held it for 2 laps. You could clearly see, though, watching the race that Todd was over driving the corners, trying to keep the lead, because obviously, if the 6 car got out front, it was game over. So the race continued on. Just for a couple more laps, Jake Drew had taken the lead. Todd had fallen to second. Tanner Rev, who had to start at the rear of the field, he was able to get up to about 5th or 6th by the time the first caution had come up. The 0-4 of Sean Hingarani, he had went off course in the last corner before the front stretch. He got stuck there. Did get out, though. I don't know if they had to pull him out. They went to commercial break, so I don't know if he was able to get out on his own or they pulled him out. Either way, he got back to pit road. Pretty severe nose damage. It looked like a part failure because he did take the green flag on that initial restart, but would later go to the garage and would be in there for quite a bit of time and would come back out and finish the race. Sean did finish the race, but 25 laps down. So continuing on with the West Circuit, got back out. It was a little quickie caution, just 2 laps. Pretty hefty green flag run, 15 laps. We did lap a couple cars. The 85 went a lap down. Vince Little, the 14 went down a lap. The 52 was about to go a lap down, but luckily the caution came out again for debris. It looked like a crush panel, some sort of axle and crush panel. I don't know what came out of this car, but a huge debris caution down in turn 1 was actually needed because it was like a whole, I don't know how to describe it. It was like a whole, probably like 3 foot wide crush panel, 3 foot wide crush panel. And, it was warranted that a caution should come out. But it was really weird to see one of those fly out of the car. I don't know if Charlie Crawl on commentary, I don't know if we ever got who it was, but either way, somebody was definitely missing a crush panel at the end of that race. Free pass on that caution was the 14 of Davey Marcus. At this time, we still had 11 of our 12 starters on the track. The 0-4 was just about to come back out on track. We had just went back to green flag racing. They went ahead and used that race as the halfway break as well, since, 57 lap race, but a caution on lap 25, that's about halfway, and the cars can go to the end on fuel there. Of course, with the ARCA cars having a bigger fuel tank, so went ahead and used that as the halfway break caution, came back just 2 laps later, unfortunately. The 54 of Joey East, he stopped on track, not sure why. They did throw the caution. He would later go to the garage as well, but would also come back out. This race was really marred by cars going to the garage and coming back out. The 85 of Vince Little, he was in and out of the garage. The 0-4 was in and out of the garage, and so was the 54, but they managed to not lose many, many laps at all. It was actually also during this time that the 99 of Cole Moore came down. He had went off track twice and had actually broken the right front suspension off of his car. Impressively, though, the Bill McNally team only lost 1 lap repairing the car, and he would actually get the free pass on the last caution, which we'll get to in a second. So impressively, by this point, had the race restarted on lap 32, we still had all 12 starters running despite all the mechanical issues that had happened. It was actually quite impressive. We ran another 7 laps, and despite Todd Souza's best efforts, he just could not get to Jake Drew. After the first 3 or 4 corners, that number 6 would just pull away, and there was nothing that Todd could do. I mean, he tried and tried to keep up, but the more he overdrove the corners, the more Jake Drew pulled away. Tanner Reff was right there. Cole Moore was right there. But again, they could get into the corners, and where the 6 was really beating them was off the corners, because the other 3 were trying so hard to, get in that corner, really gain that ground, but then the 6 would pull off the corner as the other 3 would struggle for grip. It's kind of your classic, do this, see that, and do that on the road courses. Meanwhile, a lot of other people having a good run. Takuma Koga and Bridget Burgess, who have been running kind of the same group this season. Takuma, though, kind of a sad note for the Gen 4 fans. This is the last season that the Gen 4 bodies, not steel bodies, they were not a steel body car. That if you guys saw that I posted, the Takuma Koga car was a fiberglass one-piece Gen 4 body. And this is the last season that those cars are allowed. So it really is. This is the real end of an era for the Gen 4 cars. So if you love the Gen 4 bodies and you love seeing them in ARCA and NASCAR, this is the last year you will get to see those bodies before even the fiberglass ones are outlawed. And I believe everybody will have to run a Gen 6. I would want to use that body up while you can. And maybe it wouldn't shock me if they run that car again, but I think it's only allowed at the road courses. So that might have been the last time we ever see one. Yeah, we don't know for sure. But yeah, then Bridget Burgess, she was running as high as third and fourth. Both Takuma and Bridget at some point in this race were both in the top 5. It was a pretty cool sight to see Bridget Burgess as high as third at one point in this race because so many other cars were having mechanical issues. Like I said, the 99 had went down a lap. The 16 of Landon Lewis, he just stalled on track. He got back to pit road. Not sure what really happened to him. Again, like everybody was just having issues to the point where he had these two underdogs. Even Ryan Philpott, the family-owned team for him, he was running sixth as well. Like great runs for these underdogs. Unfortunately, we had yet another caution. Vince Little spun in the last corner, bringing up the yellow. He stalled it. And unfortunately, on that last caution, the 88 of Bridget Burgess had a parts failure, and my heart just sank because she was having the race of her career. Yeah, there was only 12 cars in the race, but she was still running fourth, all but set for her best career finish. And unfortunately, I still really don't know what happened. They got the car back to the pits, and she managed to actually get back out on track and finish the race 7 laps down. So whatever it was fixable, but unfortunately killed their chances of getting a top 5 finish. So at this point, even on the last restart with 14 laps to go, we still had all 12 cars running. And I'm really want to give a shout out to all those West Series teams for getting their cars back out on track and never giving up. And it just shows that, even as serious as this organization is, and a lot of people don't take the ARCA series seriously, which again, is just a joke. You look at that race. Only 12 cars, but the work and the effort that those teams did to get those cars back out on track and for all 12 of them to finish, that is a monumental effort by everyone in the ARCA West garage. So I really commend them for that. The 99 of Cole Moore was the recipient of the free pass on that last caution, exactly what he needed. Unfortunately, that free pass was almost erased because for some strange reason on that last restart, he had a restart violation. I went back and watched the restart countless times, and they said he changed lanes before the restart. I watched it a couple times. Unless I'm missing something, he looked like he stayed in his lane. Unless he was supposed to be in the inside lane, he accidentally changed lanes during the pace laps. I still don't see why that would warrant a penalty, but 14 laps straight of green flag racing and how the car is, Cole was able to recover and get all the way back up to 4th place. Meanwhile, though, all Cole Moore, Takuma Koga, Ryan Philpott, Davey Margus, Cole Moore, Takuma Koga, Ryan Philpott, Davey Margus,